будет русский-английский. Поэтому, если вы говорите по-русски, то, пожалуйста, включите перевод внизу экрана на русский язык. Наша встреча записывается на видео. Сегодня у нас будет следующее расписание. Сначала я помолюсь, потом коротко расскажу о цели нашей серии встреч. Потом мы недолго почитаем слова о Хундуке истинных родителей про свидетельствование. После этого я приглашу мистера Джека Корли. Он выступит на тему «Мои переживания в свидетельствовании». После этого, если в чате будут вопросы про свидетельствование, то я задам ему один-два таких вопроса. После этого мы сфотографируемся, я сделаю объявление про следующую встречу, и мы закончим нашу сегодняшнюю встречу. Дорогие друзья, присоединитесь, пожалуйста, к моей молитве. Дорогой наш Небесный Отец, добрый вечер. Небесный Отец, мы очень рады приветствовать Тебя сегодня здесь. Отец, для нас свидетельство является очень важной деятельностью. Мы понимаем, что наша церковь была создана благодаря свидетельствованию, развивалась благодаря свидетельствованию, достигла того уровня, который мы сейчас видим благодаря тоже свидетельствованию. Отец, мы очень ждем, мы очень хотим, чтобы свидетельствование развивалось и укреплялось. Отец, мы хотим находить регулярных членов нашей церкви, основных членов нашей церкви, чтобы нас становилось все больше, небесные родители, и мы хотим наследовать у наших старших братьев и сестер не только методы, но и дух свидетельствования, Отец, чтобы с этим духом, Отец, чтобы с этими внутренними победами мы могли идти в мир и приглашать людей. Спасибо тебе большое за возможность собираться вместе через границы стран, через большие расстояния. Я приношу свой отчет маме Палкина Артема, член Центральной благословенной семьи. Аджу. Так, дорогие друзья, два слова расскажу про цель наших встреч, нашей серии встреч. Свидетельствование – деятельность очень непростая, очень важная для небесного родителя и очень опасная, нежелательная для сатаны. Поэтому нам постоянно нужно стремиться к тому, чтобы обретать точку зрения Бога на свидетельствование. И естественным образом мы постоянно ее теряем. Если я давно и много занимаюсь свидетельствованием, или если наоборот, я только начал им заниматься и только чуть-чуть попробовал, у меня может появиться чувство, что это трудная, неблагодарная деятельность, которая приносит мало результата и выматывает, что это некоторая обязательная часть деятельности нашей церкви, традиция, мой долг и жертва ради Небесного Отца. В таком случае я теряю точку зрения Бога на свидетельствование, как на деятельность, которая напрямую связана с сердцем Бога, которая приносит нам радость или грусть, но так или иначе делает нас ближе к пониманию сердца Бога, делает нас фундаментально счастливее. Вот цель наших встреч будет как раз в том, чтобы понемножку выправить эту точку зрения, связаться с тем, как свидетельствование видят наши старшие братья и сестры, связаться с теми духовными и эмоциональными опытами, через которые они прошли, и немножко выправить то, как мы видим свидетельствование, ну и, естественно, обрести силы, чтобы этой деятельностью прекрасно заниматься. Хорошо, давайте тогда сейчас мы немного почитаем слова истинных родителей о свидетельствовании. Я буду читать на русском языке, но ссылку на те же самые слова на английском языке вы можете найти в чате. Ну, естественно, перевод, слушайте перевод. Свидетельствование. Причина, почему нам нужно свидетельствовать. Что такое свидетельствование? Что такое свидетельствование? Когда мы свидетельствуем, мы побуждаем людей с улыбкой покинуть мир сатаны и последовать небесному пути. Вы должны это понять. Вам понятно или нет? А то я гляжу, как вы свидетельствуете, и вижу, что вы заставляете людей приходить, невзирая на то, нравится им это или нет. Так поступать неправильно. Человек – духовное существо, поэтому молитесь за него и смотрите, что получится. Проведите эксперимент. Попробуйте вложить в человека всю свою любовь и с болью в сердце плачьте о нем, чтобы взрастить его и убедить последовать по пути Божьего промысла. Что такое свидетельствование? Если Авель – это плюс, то Каин – минус. Это мир сатаны. По отношению к миру сатаны я занимаю позицию плюса или Авеля. Мы должны подчинить Каина, чтобы этот плюс сатанинского мира стал минусом. Мы не создаем его, а побуждаем объединиться с нами. Это воссоздание. Воссоздание, понятно вам? Ничего не получится, если человеку это не нравится. Ему это должно приносить радость. Бог творил мир с радостью, а не с печалью, верно? Поэтому вы должны отдавать столько любви, чтобы ее количество превзошло бремя трудностей и страданий, с которыми вы сталкиваетесь. Творение – это вклад, вклад и еще раз вклад. Вы пожнете столько, сколько вложились и посеяли, понимаете? Поэтому вы будете восстановлены настолько, насколько вы вкладывались в людей и в архангелов. Здесь применим тот же принцип. Поскольку существует такая формула, когда я выхожу к людям, я говорю им: прикладывайте больше усилий, вкладывайтесь и жертвуйте собой. Это правильное или неправильное указание? Нужно продолжать так делать до тех пор, пока восстановление не будет завершено. Бог – владыка творения. Разве он начал творить, потому что ему сказали это делать? Нет, он начал творить по собственному желанию. В таком случае, можно ли этого достичь по чьей-то указке? Может ли что-то быть сделано просто потому, что я этого хочу? Мы сами должны этого захотеть. То же самое относится и к вашим гостям. Чем же тогда является ваш выход на свидетельствование? Это просьба о том, чтобы вы выполнили свою задачу и скорее вернулись обратно. Просьба о том, чтобы вы скорее вернулись к небесам. Поэтому тот, кто делает все с неохотой, будет обречен в тот же час. Вот я и выгоняю вас на улицу, чтобы вы смогли избежать гибели. Теоретически это правильно. Поэтому как только вы это поймете, вы должны будете тут же идти на улицу. И немцы, и американцы, и черные, и белые все должны идти и свидетельствовать. Вы не можете думать так: мне это не нужно. Даже если я попытаюсь, все равно результат будет таким-то и таким-то. От этого зависит все. Главная цель кампании свидетельствования – выход свидетельской активности на национальный уровень. Если вы можете создать национальное основание для свидетельствования, вы утвердите национальную сферу свободы. Если вы создадите международное основание для свидетельствования, вы утвердите международную сферу свободы. Это одна из стратегий Бога по отношению к физическому миру. Я говорю вам идти и свидетельствовать. Но что такое свидетельствование? Это указание пути. Свидетельствование указывает вам, как вернуться к Богу ради блага мира. Замечательно, правда? Если вы спросите изначального человека, куда ты отправишься, он ответит: пройдя через земной мир, я должен вернуться в Царство Небесное. Как же велика миссия того, кто прокладывает путь? Он терпит гонения, переносит и то, и это. Любой человек возвращается на небеса, проходя через земной мир. Если у вас нет доказательств, вы должны их найти. В одной из святых песен есть такие строчки: «Иисус, я верю в Иисуса, поскольку у меня есть множество доказательств». Есть ли у вас такие доказательства? Вы выходите свидетельствовать и похваляетесь тем, что у вас есть доказательства. Однако уверены ли вы в том, что их можно использовать в качестве подтверждения? Какой смысл что-то доказывать людям, если вы не можете никого убедить остаться? Это бессмысленно. Какие дары вы возьмете с собой на небеса? Оказавшись в духовном мире, вы предстанете перед множеством мучеников и великих святых. Сможете ли вы открыть свою сумку с дарами перед столь великими личностями? Подумайте хорошенько. Покажете ли вы свои дары, больше похожие на содержимое нищенской торбы? Какие страдания пришлось пережить в церкви объединения и какие страдания выпали на вашу личную долю? Вы утверждаете, что живете ради страны и мира, но если вы не испытали даже таких страданий, как вы можете говорить, что вы прожили такую жизнь? Вам лучше думать так: хоть я и пострадал немножко в своей жизни, это нельзя назвать настоящими страданиями. Вам все еще предстоит долгий путь. Попав в духовный мир, вы должны с полным правом раскрыть свою сумку с подарками и сказать: я готовил их всю жизнь, пожалуйста, примите их от меня. Даже девушки, выходя замуж, приносят с собой приданое. Как же вы отправитесь в духовный мир с пустыми руками? Дорогие друзья, сейчас я буду приглашать нашего сегодняшнего выступающего, мистера Корли. Он будет выступать на английском языке, и его презентация тоже будет на английском. А, Презентация, переведенная на русский язык, как бы сказать, ну, насколько мы смогли ее быстро перевести, будет выложена в чате, ссылка на нее. Если во время выступления мистера Корли у вас возникнут вопросы к нему, касающиеся свидетельствования, задавайте их, пожалуйста, в чате, и после завершения его презентации, если время будет, мы зададим ему, ну вот, может быть, их зададим, если время останется. А сейчас я хочу за эту виртуальную кафедру пригласить мистера Джека Корли с посланием «Мои переживания в свидетельстве».
Evening, brothers and sisters. Greetings from Prague, and thank you very much for joining. I know there are many more trying to get in, but unfortunately, our staff in Moscow forgot to increase the number of possible windows. So, Artem, I hope you can correct this and that everybody who signed up got a link and also actually can actually join, because the numbers is stuck at 100, I see here. So sorry to those who are not on here, they're not hearing me now, but I hope in the course of this call that they can join. But I'm very gratified to see that so many wanted to join, and it's not, I'm sure, because of me, but it's because of the concept of witnessing, which is in all of our minds right now, because that is a major concern for True Mother. That is why she has sent her best and brightest young people all over the world, including her own grandson and his wife, to this region, to be out there witnessing every day. So a True Mother knows that if we want to save the world, we have to have a strong core foundation. Otherwise, we're just dreaming. Anyway, I kind of changed the theme because I have to confess that I cannot be seen as a good model of witnessing success. I know that Artyom in Moscow wanted me to give the first talk, partially because, of course, I am the Eastern Europe sub-regional leader. And this was originally focusing more on the Russian-speaking population of our region. But then it became expanded, and as I understand it, over 200 signed up. So I hope that we can resolve the issue for those who are waiting to join us. If there's any message that should be sent out, Sasha or Artem, please do so that we can allow everybody who made that sincere effort to be a part of it. Because this is the first of a series, actually, of programs on the issue of witnessing. And so I've renamed, in a way, my talk Reflections on Witnessing, because many times I'm talking about other people's activities. And particularly right now, we're developing programs with young people. And I know that we will have Dale Rose, Vitali Vakulinsky, and Roger Frankhauser from Switzerland joining us actually in the coming weeks. And they have a lot of experience, I know, from witnessing over the years. I also hope that in addition to that, we will have people from the young team that are now traveling or working in different countries and have them testify to their very direct and very current experience. They are a younger generation, and it's good to hear from them. I've been following True Parents for 50 years, so some of my experiences could be close to 50 years old. I'm not sure they're so helpful in today's world, but we'll try. And I want to now share my screen, and there are 10 points I want to reflect upon, which I hope will be helpful to you, and that can give you some ideas or inspirations. So is reflections about witnessing. And here are several points, and I'll elaborate a little bit on each one before continuing the PowerPoint. First of all, I think we can all understand that successful witnessing is based on a heart of love connected to Heavenly Parent and true parents and a love for people. And this is really, I believe, very true. That we cannot, as we just read in the 100, we cannot simply go out to witness because somebody asked us to do so. We cannot go out to witness um, and just drag people back and sit them down and pump them full of lectures in the hopes that they will change their faith and become members. And Father said that that doesn't work. So we have to really understand people where they're at. So we must have really a serious interest in people, understanding them, becoming their friend, really sincerely wanting them to receive the kind of blessing that all of us have received through meeting true parents in the principle. I will tell you from my own experience back in 1973, I was working in Birmingham, England. I was working on a construction site as a laborer in order to pay for my higher education. I went to a private institute and I had to pay based on a bank loan. And then in the summer, I would work and repay my loan. And then my brother, who had already joined the church, sent me a message and said, please visit this address in the city of Birmingham in the UK and find out what I'm doing and why I joined this movement. So I thought, okay, I trusted him. I thought, he wouldn't do anything really stupid like me. And I thought he's a very sensible person. So surely he will have something useful um, that he wants me to know. And so I visited after work each evening for about 2 or 3 weeks in August and July and August 1973 and listened to lectures from two young brothers. They were both actually slightly younger than me. They were pioneering the city. They themselves had just joined the church about a year earlier. And the one thing that really impressed me was their utmost sincerity. When they spoke, I felt they're speaking directly to my heart. They are not superficially religious. They also are people that really, they just naturally carry their religious values with them. So I could immediately sense, yeah, these two young guys, they are really genuine and sincere. And that's really important that when we meet people, they can sense from us our sincerity, our genuine care and love for people. And they're moved by that. And one of the things that really moved me very much was one of those brothers. And just to put the context here, I had just come from Ireland. I had never been in the UK before. I was an Irish nationalist as a student. These were British young people. We have a history. So, you know, it was not maybe the most ideal situation for a good relationship. But what really moved me was that one day I did not come to the center. For some reason, I don't even remember. I did not come. And at those days, we didn't have mobile phones or email and so on. But there was a landline. I could have and should have called the center and said, I won't be there, for the next lecture, the next day. But I didn't. It was very impolite of me, I think. And then I actually came back the following day from my work to my apartment. And my apartment was unusually situated in such a way that there was no shelter by the entrance to my apartment. In other words, if it was raining, and it rained a lot in Britain, um, anybody standing outside would get wet. And when I arrived back, this brother, one of these two brothers, was standing there in front of my door, soaking wet. And I saw him and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I was really worried, because you didn't show up yesterday as you had said. So I really wanted to check if you're okay and how are you doing and, can I help?" And I was so moved by that. I thought, how many people in my life until then had made such efforts and showed such concern for me? And this is a British young man doing it for an Irish guy. And so that touched my heart very deeply. And also another time that I learned a lot about witnessing was the opportunity I had to work with True Father's first disciple, Reverend Wan Pil Kim, when he was leading a section of the movement in the UK. I saw his attitude to our members and to the young people that were coming to the workshops, and how much care and how much concern he expressed. He was being so humble and serving them. And this moved me deeply as well, because this is a person who had been following True Father for so many years. And I said to him one time, you know, you've been following True Father from the very beginning. You must feel very blessed. And his answer was no, quite the opposite. I feel like a sinner because actually I should be the best example, but I'm not. And I was touched by that attitude. But I was particularly touched the way he took care of brothers and sisters and new people coming. So this kind of heart of love coming from Heavenly Parent and true parents, expressed in love for people, is really important. And it's something that we should all be examining every day. It's just part of our life. And that means, in other words, the second point, which is be aligned with Heavenly Parent and true parents through practicing a principled lifestyle. Again, principle shouldn't, it's not a teaching, it's not a belief, it's a lifestyle if it's going to be meaningful. And so, in other words, we should actually be always, in a way, switched on, if you know what I mean, that we are always alive with the principle, alive with the love of God and true parents, and we are walking containers of love. Then people will be attracted to us. And if we meet somebody, we look at them with the eyes and the heart of God and see in them something original and true, even if externally they do not look so good. And I can tell you, at that time in my life, I didn't look so good. I had long hair, dressed all in black, and coming from a construction site didn't look very pretty. I wouldn't have witnessed to myself if I saw myself walking in the street. I thought, no, no, this person doesn't look prepared. Anyway, it's also important to have a good grasp of divine principle, content, and the true parents' words. Why is that important? It's because actually I discovered this over the years through teaching principle in hundreds of workshops in many countries, that the best way to master principle is to teach it. Because when you teach principle, you understand what you don't understand. You know what I mean? You realize your limitations. And then when you go to study again, you then know you have a focus. I need to understand this point or that point much better. So actually, it gives you also the possibility to be able to utilize principle, not just as a religious doctrine, but actually even in normal conversations. You can talk to people about the values of principle without even having to use theological words. I worked in China over a 10-year period together with Dr. Junho Suk and other members of what we know as the International Educational Foundation team. And we could not mention God. We could not speak in religious terms. Yet we were able to do programs for 300,000 people on every level, from the federal to the state and local level, teaching the three blessings without mentioning God. We had no choice. And yet we had to somehow reach out to the Chinese people. So we had to adapt the way we talk, the words we use. Otherwise, we would be kicked out. They were actually kicking out our missionaries from nearby Chinese-speaking countries while they were welcoming us. And how do we do that? We changed the three blessings to the three goals in life. And of course, these are the most important goals in life. And we could talk about the root cause of conflict without going into theology based on the concept of self-centeredness and so on. So there are places and there are times when you may have to speak in a non-theological way. And many people, in fact, not just in communist countries, but they would walk away from you if you start talking too directly about God, about religious things, because they have an aversion to religion based on maybe some bad experience they had in their life. And by trying to talk to them in a more religious way, you may actually turn them off. And so we have to develop the skills to be able to present the values and the goals of principle in a non-religious way in some cases. I remember one time Reverend Warnbill Kim, after he had become National Messiah to Norway, he came to Moscow when I was working there and wanted to have a 2-day workshop based on the lectures we were using in China. And he brought two of his colleagues. One was the National Messiah from the UK, and another was Knut Holdus, who former national leader there, and had them sit for 2 days. He's hearing a non-theological version of the principle. He traveled also with us to Beijing and Shanghai, and was also listening like a very good student to try to understand how are we presenting principle in a non-religious, non-theological way. So, of course, it's better if you can be very direct and go into all the religious and spiritual. That would be the most ideal. But we have to also be adaptable and, touch people's hearts through the way we explain our values. Witnessing. Now, one of the things that you will learn or have learned, I'm sure many of you, are dealing with your fears and inhibitions as you reach out to people, total strangers. Maybe you don't speak the same language, you're not accustomed to their culture, or in many different ways you feel inhibited. Maybe you're shy, maybe you fear rejection. This is a normal sort of thing that you don't want somebody to be nasty to you and to reject you. And this is a normal human situation. But it's also very liberating when, despite all of those things, we can free ourselves from those fears, from those inhibitions, and just boldly reach out to people. And maybe you'll get a rejection, but eventually, based on your effort, you will also bring some good result. So personally, I can still remember, like it was yesterday, my first effort at witnessing. Just after I joined the church, I was living in a place called Reading in the UK, where we had our workshop center. So the day came when I should go witnessing. I was in the church for a very short time, only had a 2-day workshop. At that time, there were no 7-day workshops. And here I am going out. And keep in mind, I am an Irish country boy, just kind of came to the UK for the first time. And during that time, 1973, the relationship between Ireland and the UK was very tense. And I had an accent which was immediately recognizable as a very strong Irish accent. And so I was being persecuted both as an Irishman and as a Mooney. So I was full of fear. And I thought, okay, I'll make some kind of strategy. And my strategy was, okay, I'm going to look around for somebody that's really looking miserable. And, really the most miserable looking person on the street. I'm going to walk up to them and I'm going to say, would you like to find happiness? And they're going to say, oh, yes. And I say, come with me. I can show you how to find it. So I felt confident I can surely do that. So I did it. I walked up to some lady on the street who looked absolutely miserable. She was smoking a cigarette and looked like she had the whole world on her shoulders. And I said, are you looking for happiness? She said, no, I'm actually very happy. Thank you. Being British, she's very polite. So now, what do I do now? I don't have plan B. So I had to learn how to overcome my limitations in approaching people and just face them and overcome them. I mean, the limitations. And later on, and this is how things changed, I was a member of the European IOWC, International One World Crusade. And we began in the UK, traveled through Germany, France, and Italy. But while I was in Germany in 1975, actually, I was in Munich City, a city that I love, and I'm glad that True Mother's coming there. And the first day, I didn't speak a word of German except maybe Danke, Bitte, or something. And I asked one German brother, can you write on a piece of paper some words that would be good to invite people to come hear a lecture in the center? So he did. I had no idea what was written on the paper. But I walked around to people on the street and just held up the paper. And they would say, yeah. But then I was so excited that on the way back to the center, I would see somebody passing by who looked good. And I thought maybe prepared. And I would say to the person with me, moment. While I walked to the other person and said, show them the paper. And they said, yeah. So by the end of the day, you may think I'm exaggerating, but there may be somebody on this call who might even remember this. But I brought 21 guests to the center. Now, unfortunately, none of them are still in the movement. Some joined but left. But that was the kind of spirit. And the more German I learned, the less guests I brought. So I realized, oh, it's more than just your skills at talking. It also has a lot to do with your spirit and your determination and your total conviction to witness to people. And so the next day, I think I remember I brought 11 and somehow went down from there, although I kept bringing guests, but nonetheless, it wasn't the same as the first day. And so this is also important that we have that conviction and have that spirit. Then number 6 point, and the important role of the relationship between the divine principal teacher and the spiritual parent. So I have been seeing it from both sides because, of course, I was witnessing on the street and depending on German-speaking lecturers that were in the center at that time. But I've also been on the other side as the lecturer. And people say that the most important workshop is the 7 or 21-day workshop where people make a commitment to join or not. And I disagree, I must say politely, because I taught many 2-day workshops, and of course, some 7 and 21-day workshops. If they are not impressed and they're not moved on the 2-day introductory workshop, and they decide not to come back, you've lost them. They can always say, well, I listened to your teaching and I'm not impressed, and thank you, but no thanks. So, really important, more than you may realize, is the importance of introductory lectures. Can you really touch people? Can you get to their heart in an introductory lecture, maybe a 1-hour lecture or a 2-day workshop? So it's the first contact which is actually the most important. And therefore, also another aspect of that is the relationship between the lecturer and the spiritual parent. It's like that between a mother giving birth and the midwife delivering the child. So there must be good working together. There must be harmonious give and take. And the teacher should understand the concerns and of the spiritual parent. And then the spiritual parents support the teacher in guiding their spiritual child to understand principle and true parents. So these are key issues that when a member brings somebody to the center, take the time to know the person, find out about their life. Don't just plonk them in front of a board or a PowerPoint these days and just start teaching at them. Really listen to them, find out about their life. Really, maybe you're the only first person they might even have opened up to about some things in their life. So if they feel I can trust this person that's now about to teach me something, then they open their heart. But if they're sat down without much preparation and preached at, it could turn them off. And so it's very important to have the attitude and the kind of spirit of really listening to people, understanding who they are, treating them as individual, and helping them to open their hearts. And in the process, then listen also to what you want to say. Also, the next point, number 7, helping the process of rebirth, caring for guests and new members, the environment must always be sensitive in the community. For example, if you're in a community center, or it could be your own home, that great attention and care is given to the people who show up. And that includes also the person who brought the guest, because they've been out there maybe in the sweltering heat or in the freezing cold, witnessing, and they're coming with a lot of hope. Maybe this person will understand and will follow true paths. So you, in a way, receive the offering as a lecturer. You receive the offering of the member bringing the guest. So treat them with great care and respect and love. And there are sometimes people who are kind of difficult and argumentative and so on, but always show them respect, always show them understanding. Listen if they even say something not so good or negative, or they maybe haven't learned how to communicate their disagreement very well, but fundamentally they could be a good person. And so don't be distracted by their attitude always, because once they can come to know the principle, they realize, oh, this is really good. This is a good person. Even I asked his questions of this person in a not very polite way. This person responded in a very understanding and caring way. And then that your response in such a situation could be a decisive factor in helping a person to really want to know. Because maybe his or her experience in life is that when they talk critically or ask challenging questions, they feel rejected. But if you show love and care when they ask difficult questions, actually, they then feel, well, nobody ever treated me like this. And you could change their lives. You never know by one word or one gesture how a person's life can change. I heard a story one time in America that there was one guest who was very troublesome and was brought there, and but then when he listened to the lecture, wasn't so impressed. And he was traveling through California, like many people who join. And he thought, okay, I'll just quietly leave during the next coffee break. And during that coffee break, one sister on the staff approached him and handed him a donut or offered him a donut. And something about the gesture, or something about the demeanor of that sister actually touched him very deeply. And he decided, this is such a beautiful person. And I'm not talking about external appearance, but the gesture of love and care he felt from that, he decided to cancel his plans and joined. So he called his testimony "Saved by a Donut." Also, very important is the role of ancestor liberation and blessing and the Chunbo experience, because this is, of course, after somebody joins. We want to not just stop loving them once they join and then we move on to the next one. No, we should always have a heart of caring, and we should be a movement of love that is always caring. It should be just so natural for us to be like that. Then people will be drawn to that. There's a quote in the Bible that says that, behold, see how those Christians love each other. We should be such a movement that, behold, see how those unificationists love each other. So we actually have to create the environment among ourselves that anybody who walks in, immediately they can feel a beautiful, loving environment. But if in our community or in our family there are tensions and disagreements and disunity, that kind of environment repels people. They may not know the details, but they can sense. And certainly, Spirit World will be looking out to know what kind of environment should this person be brought to. Their ancestors will surely be concerned that when they come to the community or meet somebody, it's the best person to take care. It's also the best community to join. And so, but when they move on, then to help them grow spiritually, we should introduce the process of ancestor liberation and blessing, and of course, prepare them for their blessing. And so, ninth point I want to mention here is creating an environment to raise new members to understand the blessing and build happy and healthy families. It's more or less the same point with different words. And then, of course, we are a movement now with several generations. We need to develop and very, creatively, I believe, like Mother is doing, uh, ways of raising up future generation of members and future blessed children. So I know that now many of those blessed children in Europe are are adults. In Korea, they're senior adults already, are in their 50s. So they're no longer children. But nonetheless, we should be, from one generation to the next, we should be creating a loving environment in which we can bring people closer to true parents. So these are just some reflections I wanted to offer, on this. There are people on this call that have more experience than me and would make a better presentation than me in terms of their direct experience right now and recently. I'm talking about some experiences that are more than 40 years old. So I really look forward to hearing from the future speakers. I know that Dale and Roger have worked in Russia and other countries of the former Soviet region. And of course, Vitaly Vakalinsky is the president of the Family Federation in Russia and doing wonderful work also in reaching out. And there was one thing that I missed here. I see in-reach and outreach witnessing. This is something I've been talking to members and leaders in my region. In-reach means that we need to be able to witness to people who were in our movement but have become distant or indeed quit. And because otherwise we become like a revolving door. That we do not want to do. So we have to evaluate why is it that people join for some time, they're very enthusiastic, and then one day they said, no, I'm quitting. We need to analyze what is it that is causing them to lose their faith or lose their belief in our movement. Actually, people leave often, they don't stop believing in principle or they don't stop believing true parents are who they say they are. But somehow they lose their desire to work together with our community. So we should be analyzing this point. So I've asked all the countries in Eastern Europe, please look at the membership in your community that are no longer participating in activities. Find out how you can reach them and how you can really open their hearts again. Because what's the point in going out bringing new people if we can't maintain those who already know the principle? So some people will not come back, they very strongly reject us, but there are many who are not like that. And we should be concerned about them. And then outreach witnessing, of course, is the witnessing to new people. And I believe that our movement can be revived. And this is something that True Mother has asked us to do, how to be able to revive our movement. I want to now quickly go through some things. I hope that time allows. And this is some of my own experiences. I know, I'm sure many of you on this call, I don't see your faces right now because my screen is full of the slide. But I traveled to many countries in my church life, and I had so many different opportunities to witness directly or indirectly. And here are the countries that I have been to. You may not have time to count them, but it's 83. And I have worked in many of those countries. If you think about the former Soviet republics, which are now independent countries, all over Europe. I was European leader. I've been to all the countries of Europe. I've been to Asia and so on. And I spent a lot of time also in People's Republic of China, traveled there over 60 times actually to do our work there. And so, it's been a great education. And I encourage those of you who can, and especially the younger generation, before you are tied down with family and other responsibilities, try to go beyond your own country and culture if you can. Try to work in some other very different country from where you lived. It'll broaden your mind. It'll help you to understand the world better. And you will get a grasp also of what it is like for a heavenly parent. As he looks down at this world, he isn't just seeing the prosperous, free countries. He is seeing the poor, miserable, struggling, unfree countries. and he has a picture of the world which is much different than if you came from just one country, one language, one culture. And then you cannot grasp the enormity of the task that we have to restore this world. These are, as I said, the countries that I have been to or worked in many cases. And these are some of the things, some of the pictures from those days. At one point, I was an itinerary worker in the Asia region, appointed by True Father in 1988. And so, beginning of 1990 until 91, I worked across countries, about 15 countries in Asia. And it was an amazing experience to understand also that within our movement at that time, there was quite different situations. There was great poverty in parts of our movement. I did not go to Africa very much, but at that time, particularly, I think things in Africa were really challenging. But even in some countries in Asia, like some parts of the Philippines or Bangladesh or places like that, it was not easy. And so meeting brothers and sisters in those countries was really a very special and eye-opening experience for me because I could understand how the incredible faith of brothers and sisters who, had very little material things. And sometimes the weather conditions, at least for me, were almost unbearable. And they were out there witnessing. I remember one time being in the Philippines and fundraising in a Jeep, an open Jeep, with brothers and sisters there, and all day in the tropical heat, making just a few dollars. Of course, in the Philippines, a few dollars at that time, 1989, went a long way compared to the West. But nonetheless, the conditions under which they had to raise that money or go out and witness were very different from the comfortable conditions that we in Western society, especially. So please keep in mind and pray for those brothers and sisters who are working in countries, even today, where conditions are not easy. These are other countries, of course, as well. The United States, I was leading a witnessing team called IOWC, International One World Crusade, traveling around, I think, 12 states of America with an international team of brothers and sisters. This is in Russia, in Moscow, with my wife and son, in the United Kingdom Parliament. And at that time, actually, I was nationally to the UK with meeting with Sanjanim and her husband, and then Reverend Yu as European leader. This is back in 1976, I believe, in Germany, in the city of Aachen. This is in Ireland. This is in France. And I want to share one other story and then I'll finish. Just recently, I spoke earlier, by the way, about the importance of the Chunbo Providence, Ancestor Liberation and Blessing. And just a few days ago, Reverend Inpyo Moon completed a tour across Russia, beginning in St. Petersburg, in the west of Russia, all the way to Khabarovsk, right next to China. And it is 8 time zones and 6,200 kilometers between those two cities. And he visited many communities throughout Russia. And I was so inspired to see the faces of our brothers and sisters there and how much I feel they appreciated what he was doing. And he himself really served brothers and sisters with a heart of loving care. And this is very important in connected to witnessing because if we are troubled by ancestral difficulties, how can we feel inspired to bring somebody? If you are going out witnessing and you're being pounded by bad ancestors, then you want to invite somebody to come and suffer like you? Of course not. You want to be a happy person. So you need to be able to live a principled life, liberate your ancestors, and become a happy person. Then people want to be around happy people. And so I felt this is the spirit of the Chunbo, that these are other cities all throughout the country. And he brings that happy spirit, and brothers and sisters, and especially the second generation, love it. And there are people who have not been attending are being active, but they really were inspired to come. So I want to recommend that you invite President Moon. You know, he's very busy, but still, he took several weeks off to go across Russia, and I think this is a very big blessing for him to help you and support you in the work you're doing. There's a 7-day workshop, I believe, coming up in Planau in Poland. Maybe you could go there and catch some of that spirit. But please use the opportunity to raise up and help brothers and sisters. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your kind attention. I hope something I said or showed inspired you and encouraged you. And I am very sure that people like Roger and Vitali and Dale, who have had many very direct experiences in witnessing all over, uh, they will give you much practical advice. In some ways, I have to say my advice may be a little theoretical sometimes, but there are many who will do a better job in the practical aspects of witnessing. So I hand it back to you, Artem.
Спасибо большое, мистер Корли. Давайте мы поаплодируем замечательному выступающему, выступившему. А, Я хотел бы задать мистеру Корли один вопрос из нашего чата. Я хочу попросить переводчика прочесть второй вопрос. Случайным образом просто выбрал, а я переведу его на русский язык. Второй вопрос из чата. Как вы лично противостоите постоянной негативности по отношению к нашей церкви онлайн, и особенно ситуациями вот с двумя разделениями, недавней ситуацией Японии и разным программам Netflix? Как вы помогаете людям преодолеть страхи относительно нашей церкви? Вот. У нас времени не так много, поэтому
Well,
если мистер Корли прям коротко 2 слова об этом скажет, может,
okay.
какой-то важный момент.
Yeah, I have to say that in terms of negativity, there's a group dealing with this directly with media. So let them do their job they're more professional, I would say, in terms of answering back to negativity. So allow them to do their job. In Japan, of course, we should pray for the Japanese or do whatever else, whether it's contacting people when they sometimes ask us to contact people. In other words, let also the Japanese movement find a way to deal with their situation. And we support them in whatever way we're being asked. I know because I'm involved in one of these groups that are dealing with media. There's some very good feedback being prepared in response to the recent articles. I can't say too much here, but things are not easy working in Russia. But nonetheless, our church exists there. When I go there with 1-year multiple entry visas in the name of Unification Church of Russia. They could have shut us down in just 1 second. But for whatever reason, they did not do that. And so, but there are many limitations there because of the current situation. Yet our brothers and sisters, the other ones organizing this call and also doing many activities, as I think many of you may read when I put up monthly summaries on the European news. They're moving ahead. And my advice to them when I was asked, focus on following True Mother's directions. Don't get distracted by the negativity. You do what you have to do to promote true parents, in spite of the negativity. If you're in a position to respond in a way that will help, please do so. But don't focus on the negativity. Focus on the responsibility of promoting principle and true parents. Because if you focus on give and take with the negativity, you'll be sucked into it. And it doesn't help you. It can be very discouraging.
Мгм. Спасибо большое, мистер Корли. Как вы помните, мы сегодня начинаем с вами нашу серию встреч, и на дальнейших встречах у нас будет возможность обсудить этот и другие вопросы. И мне кажется, что сегодняшняя наша встреча дала отличный старт нашей серии. Внешне, к сожалению, у нас были накладки, мы просим прощения по разным причинам, наш собственный недосмотр, ошибка. Но мне кажется, мистер Корли своим посланием, своим внутренним духом, он как бы сгладил это. И совместив вот эти внешние и внутренние моменты, мы дали старт отличной серии встреч. А, Давайте еще раз мысленно, ну или давайте я за вас всех поблагодарю, мистер Корли, за его прекрасное послание. Спасибо большое. Я лично тоже для себя извлек много глубоких моментов. И мне кажется, когда мистер Корли говорит, что его опыт мал или недостаточен, ну, как сказать, недостаточно или мал для кого, да? Мы всегда очень рады унаследовать у мистера Корли его победные моменты. Для нас всегда это очень много и очень щедро. Спасибо большое, мистер Корли. Дорогие друзья, давайте мы тогда сейчас сделаем совместную фотографию. После этого я объявлю, кто будет выступать в следующий раз, и мы будем понемножку заканчивать. По возможности включите, пожалуйста, камеры, кто может их включить. Я попрошу нашего режиссера сделать фотографию. Так, готовы ли мы? Да. Улыбайтесь, пожалуйста. Ну, давайте я скажу. Раз, два, три. Еще разочек. Раз, два, три. Мгм. Спасибо всем большое. Дорогие друзья, в следующий вторник в это же время перед нами выступит Роджер Фанкхаузер. Это человек, который а, руководил свидетельской командой очень долго. Под его руководством родилось огромное количество братьев и сестер, которые до сих пор важную роль играют в нашей церкви в разных странах Восточной Европы и не только. Поэтому, пожалуйста, продолжайте обязательно приходите в следующий раз. Все внешние проблемы мы решим, мы обещаем. В следующий раз мест будет достаточно. Приглашайте, пожалуйста, молодежь. Нам очень важно, чтобы молодежь наследовала вот этот дух, да, чтобы они наследовали дух свидетельствования и могли бы свидетельствовать. Естественно, приходите сами. Дорогие друзья, спасибо вам большое. Спасибо еще раз большое мистеру Корли. Давайте будем потихонечку прощаться. Хорошего вам вечера. До свидания. Счастливо.
Bye bye. До свидания, братья и сестры.
До свидания. Бай-бай.